Okay, can you guys hear me now? I think my microphone was muted, but now you should be able to hear me clearly. So, okay, great. So, sorry about the delay. I'm on live meeting after quite some time, so it took me a little bit of time to get adjusted. So, I'm going to be sharing my screen now. So, let me know. You guys can see my screen. So before I start my session or anything, just wanted to let you guys know who I am. So if you don't know me, my name is Lohith G N. I am a Microsoft MVP. Microsoft has awarded me this title called as MVP, or Most Valuable Professional, for 5 times now, and then I'm up for renewal now. So October 1st, I'll come to know if I'm going to be 6th time lucky or not. In my day job, I work as a technical evangelist for a company by the name of Progress Software, or you might have heard of Telerik. We are one of the leading vendors for third-party controls. We manufacture controls, or we develop controls for pretty much all the technology that you can think of: ASP.NET, Windows, WPF, Ajax, MVC, PHP, JSP, on all the mobility side, hybrid, native. So you name it, we have controls for pretty much all these things. If you want to know more about me, you can always go to this URL, about.me/Kashyapa. So that's my short URL, and then you should be able to get all my coordinates here. And feel free to tweet to me, if you need any information from my side. So I initially was thinking of running a deck, or maybe I should run the deck. So let me just bring up the deck. I hope you guys are able to hear me clearly. So use the Q&A panel so that I know what is happening. If if I'm cut off somewhere, or you're not able to hear me clearly, so just use the Q&A panel, and then maybe use that to communicate with me, saying like, hey, we lost you, or something like that, because this is like a one-way now. So I'm talking, so I don't know if you guys are able to hear me clearly or not, or you're able to see me clearly or not. So I'm assuming you can hear me, you can see my screen. So that's the assumption that I'm going with now. Let me bring up my decks for today. So today, the title for the webinar, I just set it up as, if you know what you call JavaScript, native mobile application development. So that's the topic that I gave, and then pretty much that's what we're going to discuss today. So let me bring up my deck. No, not this one. Sorry about this. I should have been better prepared, but I was doing some demo for today's talk till the last moment, so I never brought this up. Okay, so here we have. So we call it NativeScript. So that's the technology, or the framework, as we call it, that I'm going to be talking about in today's webinar. It's called as NativeScript, and then as the kind of what we say to our customers or anybody is like, hey, you can build truly native apps with JavaScript now. So that's the whole premise of this particular technology, or the framework. So what is NativeScript? Well, it's nothing but a simple runtime for building and running native iOS, Android, and soon we'll come out with Windows 10 UWP also, with a single JavaScript code base. So that is the important part, thing here. It's a runtime. We provide you the framework, we provide you the technology, and it's also a runtime which executes. When the application is running on the device, yeah, our runtime will make sure that your JavaScript gets executed, and then you get the right data back from the operating system, or your JavaScript is executed correctly on the on the device, all those things. So that's what I say, runtime. The important point here is single JavaScript code base. Yes, you heard it right. We let you use one team. We let you use one, we let you do the effort only once by writing one single project or one single solution, and it's going to be completely JavaScript. So this is reusing your skills. You may be doing JavaScript day in and day out. You're doing web-based JavaScript, but you know the JavaScript as a language. You are working with it day in and day out. So with NativeScript, that's the whole premise. You are a JavaScript developer. I'm going to make you a native mobile app developer now. So You just need to understand what NativeScript is, how do you work with NativeScript, and then that's it. You are a native mobile app developer. Believe me when I say this, I've been developing on mobility or mobile applications from last 5 years or so. I wrote my 3 Windows Phone applications way back in 2010, and Microsoft gave me a Windows Phone because they were running a contest at that time. So I know mobility, but I never jumped into Android because, or I never jumped into iOS. Why? Because I'm a C# guy, I'm a Microsoft stack guy from the last 15 years, and I'm very comfortable with C# and all this, and I never went into other things. So I never programmed for Java or I never programmed for iOS because I had to learn 2 new things. For Android, you had to learn Java. For iOS, you have to learn Objective-C or Swift. And then not only that, the Mac system, this. So there were a lot of hurdles for me to actually go out and then do some mobile applications on Android or on iOS. And I was happy doing just the Windows Phone applications because, I'm a Windows guy, so I have the Visual Studio. I write the same code, same C#, and then there you go. I have the Windows Phone application, and it runs on my Windows Phone, which I have. So I was happy with that, but I would never jump into Android or iOS because, it's not easy for me to get started. But the moment NativeScript came like 2 years ago, it's been a fantastic journey for me. I've been creating Android apps without knowing what is Android or without knowing what is iOS because I'm programming NativeScript, I'm programming JavaScript, and that's it. And NativeScript as a technology or framework will make sure that the same code when I build it for Android or the same code when I build it for iOS, I will get the native UI on those platforms. Don't confuse yourself. The moment we say JavaScript, people confuse this and say like, hey, is this Cordova or there's a question, why should one use NativeScript when one can use Ionic or React? Pretty interesting question. I don't know who is it, but very, very interesting question. It is interesting because I day in and day out deal with this question, and let me tell you a secret. Nobody in the industry knows what is mobility actually. Everybody wants a mobile application, but they have no clue as to what needs to be done. That's the reality. Why do I say that? As you can see, the question itself is, why should I use NativeScript when there is Ionic or React Native, right? Or React is what the question is. For you to understand this question, or for you to answer this question, you need to first understand what are the ways you can develop a mobile application. There are only 3 ways that you can develop a mobile application on this planet. One is mobile web application, meaning you create a web application, you style it to look good on a 4-inch screen. That's the first model, and that people have been doing it for ages. If I go to citibank.com on my mobile phone, I open up a browser, I type citibank.com, it goes to m.citibank.co.in. That's because the Citibank has detected that I'm coming from a mobile browser, so they transfer me to a separate website which is created majorly for a mobile phone, right? So that's, people have been doing that. Second way is native. That is, you use Java, you use the Eclipse and then our Android Studio, and then you create an application using those technologies. That's why it's called as native Android mobile application. You use Xcode, you use Macintosh, you use Objective-C, and then you create native iOS applications. Then you use Visual Studio, you use Windows Machine, you use XAML and C#, and that's why you create a native Windows Phone application. And the third model is known as hybrid, meaning, hey, you know what, I'm going to just create my front end or the screens of my mobile application using HTML. The coding logic, I'm going to write it using JavaScript. I'm going to style my screen using CSS. So when you use HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, and you run that as a mobile application, well, that's called as hybrid. Now, why did I bring this point? The point is Ionic or React, these are all hybrid. So I'm assuming you meant React Native. React Native is a completely different thing, but Ionic is not a native mobile application that you get. With Ionic, you get to see a screen which looks like a native screen, but under the hood, what is happening is it's just a plain JavaScript, it's just a plain HTML UI that's running under the browser's rendering engine that's there on the device. So it is not native. It is not going to give you 60 frames per second. So that is the main difference between Ionic and React Native. And React Native is another interesting concept that Facebook has come out with. They let you program everything in JavaScript, which is pretty similar to NativeScript. And what they do is they render native UI. Although your development language is JavaScript, it's not a web view that is coming in there, or it's not a hybrid, but rather we generate the UI natively at runtime. Similarly, NativeScript does the same thing. We let you develop, or your developmental language, or the stack as we call, is JavaScript, but it doesn't mean that it is actually a hybrid that's coming up. No, there is no DOM, there is no Cordova, there is no phone gap. This, with NativeScript, you get the native UI, native screen, native list view, native button, native label, whatever. Right, but what we do is we let you write your coding logic in JavaScript, and then we run the JavaScript as is on the device. But whatever UI visuals that you get is completely native. So we are better than Ionic because we are native. At any point of time, Ionic, I'm a big proponent of hybrid, by the way. I used to like hybrid. I used to say about hybrid, but the moment I got to know about NativeScript, well, my perspective has little changed. When I can get a native performance by just reusing my skill, which is JavaScript, I want to go to that instead of Ionic or instead of whatever hybrid mobile applications are there. So I hope I kind of answered this question. So now let's get back to what is NativeScript, runtime for building and running native iOS, Android, and Windows Phone apps with a single JavaScript code base. NativeScript, there is no DOM, so that's what I put there. It's not a phone gap kind of a web view that comes in and then you load your HTML. No, there is no DOM at all in NativeScript. And also, we give you direct access to native API in the JavaScript, and then there's no cross-compilation. We do not take your source code and then cross-compile it into something else. No, we don't do that. We take your code as is, and then we run it on the device. So that's the thing. So the moment we say JavaScript, people get confused and think like, oh, this is Cordova. No. When I do the demo, you will notice that what is happening. So NativeScript is pure native UI. So why NativeScript, right? So that's the question somebody asked. So skill reuse. With NativeScript, everything is a standard base. The JavaScript, we support ECMAScript 5. By the way, if you don't know what is ECMAScript 5, whatever JavaScript you are writing today, it is actually ECMAScript 5 or ES5 is what we call. So we support the plain vanilla JavaScript, which is an open standard. We support CSS for styling your, in your application. So CSS is again open standard. And then optionally TypeScript. I like TypeScript a lot, because TypeScript gives me the typing concept within JavaScript, and I come from a typed languages like C#, so it's much more easier for me to write TypeScript and then segregate concerns, like I can create a class, I can create a service, I can create a public method, getter, setter, all those things I can do with TypeScript, and then TypeScript will automatically convert that into ECMAScript 5 because you need ECMAScript 5 to run on the device. So it's all standard based. You know JavaScript, you know NativeScript in a way. You will see how when I show the demos. Plus code reuse. So there are I don't know, I think the last time I checked there were like 3 million or 3 billion packages on Node Package Manager. So Node Package Manager is nothing but a registry of open source JavaScript libraries. And since NativeScript allows you to program in JavaScript, you can bring in any JavaScript library that is out there which does not depend on DOM and use it within your NativeScript application. So that's a big plus. There are a bunch of libraries available for everything. So simplest one being, there's a library called as Movement.js. So if I give a date time and I need to get like 1 second ago, 1 minute ago, 1 hour ago, 1 day ago, 1 month ago, well, I don't need to write that logic. There is already a JavaScript library called as Movement.js. I just have to do npm install Movement.js within my NativeScript application, and we got that library. Pass the date time, and then you say, give me the moment of that, and he's going to give you the moment of that. So that's the reuse. Not only that, you can bring in third-party Android and iOS libraries. I'm not sure if I'll have time to showcase the bringing in the third-party libraries, but I'll try to see if I can do the Movement.js thing. And then you can easily use native APIs, no wrappers to access native APIs. Every API that is out there in Android operating system or iOS operating system, we surface that to your JavaScript. So you can just say, Android.widget.label. Well, you can do that. Android.widget.dialog. Yeah, you can do that. iOS.NSString. Yeah, you can do that. So that's the native APIs readily available to you within the NativeScript layer, because we surface 100% API from that. And I don't think I said this before. NativeScript is open source. It's Apache v2 based licensing. So that means you can use NativeScript for your own commercial projects, or you can use it for your own personal projects. We don't care because it's open source. We have released the technology as open source, so you can pretty much use that in any way you want. That's a big plus. So what we do is, since we are allowing you to program in JavaScript, well, there needs to be somebody who can interpret the JavaScript, right? Because JavaScript is an interpreted language. So what we do is, on the iOS, we ship, along with your application, we ship something called as a virtual machine. And on iOS, we ship JavaScript core. On Android, we ship Google V8. And then most probably we'll see what we are doing with Windows. We'll need to come back and then see if we can use Chakra, or it will be JavaScript core. We'll see that. That we'll come to know only at the end of the year. So because the team is working on that. So that's what we do. Virtual machines, Google V8 on Android, WebKit, JavaScript core on iOS. So this is how it all happens. So you are writing your JavaScript. Basically there is native APIs, and then there is the virtual machine. So what you do is, we have all the metadata of your native APIs. We know that, we convert the type, and then we dispatch the call. So basically, from the virtual machine, if you had written Android.widget.label, what we do is we figure out what is the equivalent of that from JavaScript to the native API, and then we do the conversion, and then we dispatch the call to the native API. Native API comes back and says, yeah, I've executed, here's the this one. So we do the type conversion back again, because now you need to get into the JavaScript world. So from the native world to the JavaScript world, we'll take care of all the marshalling. That's the NativeScript runtime that does, and that's what we do. So basically, if you are doing like this line if you see this slide, what is happening is, you went ahead and then you said, hey, I need a file, right? So in the V8 JavaScript engine, you will say use the java.io.file. So that's JavaScript. But if I were to go and then execute it on the operating system, well, we need to make sure that we know what all things you have. You have a java.lang.string, that's the path, and then you have the java.io.file. So we need to make sure that we know all this metadata, and then we'll dispatch it to the native world, and then we'll make sure that it gets executed, comes back to you. But for you, that's just the line, new.java.io.file. You can use that. You can do that within your JavaScript, but you don't have to. We have our own modules called as NativeScript modules. For example, there is a file system, there is a HTTP module, there is a camera module, which are cross-platform in nature, meaning you don't have to worry about how it gets executed on a Android or iOS. You just use this abstracted out NativeScript modules, and then we will take care of, oh, you're running in iOS, I know what needs to be done. Oh, you're running in Android, I know what needs to be done. So that's the beauty of NativeScript. You are programming for NativeScript, and NativeScript takes care of the underlying whatever operating system things needs to be done. That's why we call it as cross-platform native mobile applications, right? So NativeScript modules are nothing but they're cross-platform functionality. We have already written a lot of modules. Even a NativeScript button is a cross-platform module. It knows how to render itself on a Android, or how to render itself on a iOS. But for you as a developer, when you are doing your coding, it's just a simple button. That's it. You need a button on the screen? Yeah, just call NativeScript. Just use NativeScript button. That's it, and then you're good to go. Okay, so I was talking about modules. So everything is a module here. So although we say controls, but internally what we have done is we have written them as a module. They are cross-platform modules for you. So you want to use a list view? Well, that's it. Just put a list view, NativeScript list view on your page, and when you bundle it for Android or when you bundle it for iOS, at runtime we'll figure out like, oh, he needs a list view, and then this is Android. We will create the Android's list view. If you're using iOS, we'll create the iOS table view or whatever they call it. So that's what it is. And then I'm not going to do too much of this PPT, but I want to go and get on this one. But there are certain things that I need to set up. So we already at the 29th minute now. So this is how you use our cross-functional modules, for example, cross-platform modules. So file system, right? The file system on Android and file system on iOS are two different technologies, two different ways of doing things. So you will have to figure out what needs to be done. So take a look at this. So we give you a file system module, which is cross-platform. When you're developing your application and you want to do something with the file system, meaning on the device, well, you don't need to worry. So you just say require file system, and then you say, hey, .file, and here is the path. That's it. On Android, we know that it is java.io.file. On iOS, we know that it is ns file manager .create file at path contents attributes blah blah blah. Right? So that's what we do. You don't have to do so all these things. You just have to say require file system.file. That's what we have written in the NativeScript layer. Again, HTTP, it is not a simple thing to do when it comes to platform-specific HTTP calls. So Android, it's java. I don't know, net.http or whatever it is. On iOS, it's going to be completely different namespaces. But with NativeScript, this is as simple as it can get. Require HTTP module, and we provide you already a methods like get JSON and then do a put, all those stuff. So in this case, what I am doing is I have a URL api.myservice.com, and I'm saying, hey, go ping that API, and he's going to return a JSON, get me that. And then we are following the asynchronous promises way of doing things in JavaScript. So I'm saying do this task, and then when you're done with that task, I want you to do this another task, which is function, and then use the JSON object, and then maybe we go and then do something with that, right? So that's what it is. And there are other community modules that have been already written by the community. There is a bunch of people who are liking NativeScript and then building modules, plugins left, right, and center. I have just put some in this the slide deck, but if you go to npmjs.com and then search for NativeScript, you'll see a bunch of modules are available there. And these are something like, it's we as a developers or the manufacturer, or the guys who created the NativeScript, we cannot go and then put each and everything. It's pretty similar to how Microsoft does. Microsoft, when it created ASP.NET, it just created a bare bone grid and then left it. But then what we did was, like, companies like us, like Telerik, what we did was we took the same grid, we started adding functionalities to that. So similarly, what the community is doing with NativeScript is they are going ahead and then building a lot of modules. For example, flashlight. If you want to create a application using NativeScript, and then you have a feature where you want to turn on the flashlight or off the flashlight, yeah. So there's already somebody who's written a flashlight plugin, NativeScript-flashlight. So if you include that flashlight plugin, they give you a simple method, on or off. That's all you need to do. And then internally they have written the cross-platform code. Basically, they go execute the native APIs, whatever is required for the flashlight, and then that's it. It starts taking care. So now I'm going to switch gears and then show you how to install NativeScript, all those things. I've already done that in my machine, but I'm going to just follow through, our installation document to show you how this works. So go to nativescript.org and click on Docs. It's going to open up a new, as you can see here. As part of the NativeScript technology or the runtime, we support plain JavaScript or vanilla JavaScript as we call it, or TypeScript or AngularJS. If you know AngularJS 2, not 1, you need, if you're already working on AngularJS 2, well, you can use AngularJS 2 skills that you have and then still create a native mobile app using NativeScript. Right, that's maybe another day I can come back and then do another webinar on that, maybe with IndiaMentors, But today I'm going to be using the TypeScript, JavaScript way of doing things. But first thing is installation. Although the NativeScript supports Android and iOS packaging, well, it depends on what platform you are on, meaning what is your development platform. So currently, today, when I'm doing this webinar, I'm on a Windows machine, meaning I have a Windows 10 laptop. So as everybody knows on this world, you cannot develop or you cannot package an iPhone application on a Windows machine. That's because, well, Apple does not allow you to do that. So what can I do on a Windows machine? Of course, you can do Android. But if you are on a Macintosh, if you're a Mac guy, what you can do is you can install the Xcode, you can install the Objective-C related prerequisites, the iOS SDK, the Xcode, all those prerequisites. Plus, install Android SDK, Android prerequisites, and then install NativeScript, and then you're up and go. You can easily go and then create both Android and iOS packages within your Mac. But today on my Windows machine, I will be able to just generate the Android package, Android APK, and then start working with that. So in order to set up, we have a clear-cut instruction to follow here. If your development machine is Windows, what you should do. If your development machine is Linux, what you should do. If your development machine is OS X, meaning Mac, what you should do. So typically, everything starts is you will need to have the system requirements. So the system requirements for a Windows machines are like this. So let me try to zoom in. Oh, this is too much. Okay, that's fine. So for a Windows machine, we support Windows 7 and above. You need to have the latest Node.js. Remember, Node.js is just the developmental times stack. It's not, we don't put Node on your applications. We don't do that. But this is required for the development stack. And then you need JDK. Then you need Android SDK. Then you need the Android SDK build tools, and that's it. And of course, you can use Genymotion for the emulator, or you can use the stock emulator that comes with Android SDK. I'm using today Microsoft's Android Visual Studio Android emulator, which is pretty fast on a Windows machine. I love the emulator, so I'm going to show you that. So all the instructions are provided here. You need the Java Home, Android Home, and then you install each bits, and then this is all you need to do. npm install -g NativeScript, and you got the NativeScript on your machine. That's it, $0, and then you can build any app that you can think of, right? I already done all these instructions, followed all this instruction, and I've also done npm install. So let me go to a command prompt, and I'm going to bring up the command prompt, and I will let me try to increase the font size here. I hope you guys are able to see the full screen, everything clearly now. So maybe somebody can just, it's good, okay. Please share few links for further learning. Yes, I will do that. Sorry, off topic. Are you planning to give talk on Telerik controllers for ASP.NET Core? Well, today is all about, JavaScript. You can be a native mobile application developer. So how can I talk about ASP.NET Core? So this is not an ASP.NET Core talk. This is pure native mobile application development talk. So let me increase the font size a little bit. What size are we on? 20. Maybe I'll go to 24. Yeah, this should be good for you guys to see it. Okay, so what I've done is I've already installed the npm. You just have to do npm i-g NativeScript. I'm not going to do this now because I've already done that. So once you have done this step, that is install the NativeScript, we give you a shorthand. We call it as TNS, Telerik NativeScript. So you just have to say TNS NativeScript. So now if I say TNS hyphen version, oh sorry, spelling mistake, TNS hyphen version. So what's going to happen is it's going to say, hey, you are on certain version of NativeScript. Well, there you go. So I am on 2.3.0, which is the latest of NativeScript. Now once you have done that, how do you start with a application is something like this. So I'm going to go to my directory. So and I will say, let's build a newsreader application. So here is my use case. So what you are seeing here is BBC's Asia or India news that BBC carries. So what I want to do is I want to now make a feed reader for this. So basically, I want to build an application. It should show all the news, and then I want to see that news coming up on my mobile phone as a mobile app, right? So what I've done is I've made use of the RSS feed here, and then I've converted the RSS feed to a JSON output. So take a look at here. So let me show you the JSON output. Yeah, here is the JSON output. It's the same news. What you see here is here how has India changed since beef lynching. So that's what it is. How has India changed the year after Dadri beef lynching? So I've converted that into a JSON, and I'm going to use this JSON feed to go and then grab it and then show it in a application. So what we're going to do is, in order to start your application development, all you need to do is you just need to say TNS create BBC news reader. Right? I'm just saying, hey, create this particular application. Oh, I made a mistake. Just give me a second. Yeah, I don't want this. So let's see if it did create. Okay, good. It is not created. So what I missed was TNS create BBC News Reader, and I need to say what template I want to create. So typically today I'm going to be using TypeScript. Don't worry, it's a JavaScript only. But you know, TypeScript is nothing but a superset of JavaScript. So if you don't know TypeScript, you should start learning TypeScript, because it's pretty cool. So I'm going to just say, hey, create me an application, and I want to use TypeScript as my template. That is, I'm going to be writing code as TypeScript instead of the plain vanilla JavaScript. But you can do vanilla JavaScript also, not a problem with that. So let it go ahead and create it. Let me see if there are any other questions. Okay, so then. Oh, we are already at the 40th minute, so I still haven't done anything. So okay, let's speed up things now. So now what it is happening is it's going and then scaffolding the application on my machine. It's going to go ahead, create a bare bone, you know, what do you call the structure for the application. So let's it finish. Let's give it a. There we go. So the application has been created. So I'm going to. There's another question. Is it possible to do the stuff with the use of Visual Studio? Yes, the editing can be done in Visual Studio, but you need to start with command line, because you know that's how NativeScript is done. It's a command line based. Most of the things you do command line, but once the project has been created, yes, of course, I need to go and edit the code, right? There is a JavaScript, there is a UI, there is a style sheet. Well, how do I edit it? So now you can use any editor that you can think of. You can use Visual Studio, you can use Sublime. Today, I'm going to be using Visual Studio Code, which is a fantastic editor for JavaScript-based. You know, you do with JavaScript, you need Visual Studio Code. So that's what I'm going to be using today. So I'm going to navigate to my folder. And before we do anything, we need to tell NativeScript that it has to add a platform. So what platform? Since I'm on Windows machine, I can just add Android. But if you're on a Mac, you can add Android and iOS as a platform. So how do you do that? You just say TNS platform add Android. The moment I do this, remember we had the prerequisites already installed. That is JDK, Android SDK, Android build tools, all those things you have done it already. So now what it is doing is it goes ahead and then figures out where Android is installed, and then it goes and then brings out certain things from Android build, and then it puts it into your project. Because at the end of the day, if I have to do an APK, I need to do whatever Android needs us to do, right? You know, you do the same build in all those. So let it finish, install the this piece. There we go. So it's going and then doing certain stuff. That's fine. It's just scaffolding certain things for us. Let's give it a couple of seconds. So if you have any questions, keep going and then logging into the Q&A panel. I am intermittently looking at it. So if anybody else is managing this Q&A, can you please go ahead and then maybe remove all the questions where you know they're saying you know the screen is looking fine, you know, perfectly fine, so that I get a hold of what's the new questions. And also, I am a beginner, can I directly start NativeScript? Are there any prerequisites to start it? No. I mean, I would say as long as you know what a JavaScript is and you know how to write a JavaScript, well, you can always start NativeScript. Forget Android, forget Objective-C, forget Java, you start with NativeScript. That's what happened to me. I know Android Java, but I did not know Android Java, you know, whatever you need to do with Android. And I have no clue on Objective-C. But because of NativeScript today, I'm able to generate applications which run both on Android and iOS. I'm going to show you that when I do the demo. Or let me clear out a couple of stuff, because that way I'll come to know. Okay. Yeah, somebody is looking at the question. So if you're looking at the question, please just remove everything which is you know, related to that. Are they able to see my screen? Thank you very much. Okay, so now it has finished adding the platform Android. So how does the project look like, right? So I'm going to use Visual Studio Code as my editor today. So I'm going to go ahead and then say, hey, code, go ahead. So here is the Visual Studio Code which is opened up. And take a look at this. So let me try to increase the font a little bit. I hope this should be fine for you guys. So this is the project structure. There's an app folder, there's a hooks folder, there's a node module, there's a platform, there's a package.json, and then of course since this is a TypeScript based application, there will be a TypeScript config. Don't worry about that. So now everything is happening inside this app folder. Notice here I added Android, right? So if you go and look at the platforms, you will see only one folder called as Android. So I can take the same source code, go to a Macintosh and say add a platform iOS, that's it, and then my project can be bundled for iOS. So now let's start with this. In NativeScript, everything starts from app.ts. If you see here, this is what it is, and this is TypeScript, by the way. Don't worry about this. Oh, what is this new syntax? But this is a JavaScript. All we are saying is, okay, I will say use 2.0.3. That's okay. So all we are saying is, hey, there is a module or somewhere there is an npm module called as application. I want you to import that, or I want you to reference that particular module in this particular file, which is app.ts. That's what. That's all we are saying. And then it has a start method, and then in the start method, what we are saying is, NativeScript, I want you to start this first screen of my application, and the first screen is called as main-page. And where is that main-page? Well, I hope you guys are able to see this. There we go. So there is main-page.ts, there is main-page.xml, and there is an app.css. I'll come back to that app.css. In NativeScript, it's a fairly simple, convention. If you create .xml, that's your UI. If you create .js or .ts, that's your code behind. If you're coming from ASP.NET Ajax, you are more familiar with this concept that there's an ASPX page, and then ASPX has a ASPX.cs page, which is the backend for that particular page. It's fairly simple, similar. XML is the UI, the TS is the code behind for that particular XML, and then I'm using the MVVM pattern, meaning I'm creating a view model to handle all the business logic, and then I'm writing all the business logic in the view model, not in the code behind. So it's the same concept. So in the app.ts, what we say is, hey, go ahead, I want you to launch main-page. So now NativeScript will go ahead and then look for main-page.xml. Oh, I have the XML, it figured out the XML. So take a look at this syntax. I'm pretty sure you guys will be able to, without me telling what is happening, you will be able to understand what is happening. Well, there is a page at the root node, as the root node. So that means this is a mobile page, and I'm using a stack layout. So that means, whatever child are there inside the stack, it will be stacked vertically, because I've not said which. By default, it's a vertical stacking. And I have a label, I have a button, I have a label again. And there you are seeing some curly braces here. This is known as the data binding syntax or the expression. All I'm saying is, hey, whenever this button is tapped, please go ahead and then execute this on-tap method in your whoever is handling that. So we'll see who is handling that. And notice here, page has all the events navigating to loaded. I can do all those stuff. So let's go and see the main page.ts file. So what I'm doing here is, it's a fairly simple concept here. Export is nothing but from the outside world. If somebody wants to consume this method, you need to do an export. That's how typically the ES6 or ECMAScript 6 or Node, the environment, the Node, the Node.js environment. This is how you typically do it. So we are using the same common JS patterns. You are just saying, this is a public method. That is all it means. Export means it is a public method. I'm exposing this to the outside world. That is all you're doing. And notice here, I'm bringing in my hello world, the view model that I've created. I'm bringing it in. And then all I'm doing is, I said, hey, page, your binding context is the view model. That is all I've done. And the on tap, the message, these are all available on the view model. So let's take a look at the view model quickly. And this is as simple as any C# class or a Java class. I'm saying import it from observable. The observable concept is fairly simple. If you create any observable object and any value changes inside that observable object, anybody who is consuming that object will be notified automatically by the frameworks that, hey, the value change, you should repaint yourself. That is all I'm doing. So I created a view model, and I made it an observable view model. And I have a counter, I have a message. The counter is set to 42. I'm going to change this to maybe 5. I don't want to click 42 times. And then notice here, I have a getter and a setter. This is what TypeScript gives you. This is just a public property called as a message, and I can set it and then I can get it. And whenever I'm setting it, notice here, there is a property change message being fired. And the front end or the UI will automatically repaint that particular value if it is changed. And here is the on tap method. Well, if you're looking at this, you should be fairly like, oh yeah, I know this is just a JavaScript function. Yes, it is a JavaScript function. You know, you're not doing anything else. And there is a counter, and then I'm just decrementing the counter. The moment counter, okay, let me go back. Yeah, the counter reaches 0. We just say, hooray, you unlock the NativeScript clicker achievement. Otherwise, we'll say this many tabs left. Well, instead of 5, I'm going to set it to maybe 10 so that we see the fun. Okay, now this is how the application is done, and here is app.css. Anybody who has done web application, they are very familiar with CSS. And this is what I like about NativeScript. I do not have to know how you style an Android button or how you style an iOS button or how you style a text. All I need to do is write my CSS, and then that's it. So now what has happened is I've written a rule called as for any button in NativeScript, the font size has to be 42. It has to be aligned center. That is all you're saying, and then that is all I need to do. And we will take care. The NativeScript at runtime will take care of styling the button natively. I don't have to worry. That is all this is doing, and we can create any number of style sheets like this, and then you can apply it. For example, this title has been applied as a class here. If you see here on this label, we have called a class and then we have set a message. That's it. This is as simple as you doing a web application. There is nothing you need to know other than this. Now this is fine. How do I run this, right? So what I've done is I've already downloaded this fantastic emulator called as Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio Android emulator, very fast emulator on a Windows machine. So how do you run it? Well, you just have to go back to the command line, and you just have to say tns run Android. So currently on my machine, there's only one Android device running. That's the emulator. So he will figure that out, and then he will automatically deploy this onto this particular, Okay, let me try to resize it so that you guys can see it. There we go. So, and let's set this guy here. Yeah. So now I'm going to say tns run Android. So since this is the first time I'm building my APK, it's going to take like 20 seconds or so because this is the first time, but I will show you other workflow that we have wherein it will just pick up only the changes that you made. Maybe you change the color, maybe you change the line of code or whatever it is. It will pick only that one and then directly inject into the application. So let's give it a minute now, or so 20 to 30 seconds now for this to build. As you can see, it is doing all the Android build that needs to be done on my machine itself now. So let me take a look at the question. Notice template uses XAML files. Is it possible to use something like HTML, etc.? So main page.xml would be no. It's not XAML. It's pure XML. Whatever you saw, page, stack layout, label, button, these are all NativeScript controls or NativeScript modules. And then our page has to be like this. So you need to have it as an XML. That's how NativeScript runtime looks for it. So it understands that XML means that's the UI page. It's just a file extension. It doesn't matter whether you, it's just a file extension, right? And no, this is not HTML. These are all the cross-platform controls that we have already written in NativeScript. You don't have to worry. You need a stack layout, you get it. You need a grid layout, you will get it. You need a list view, you will get it. You need a label, you will get it. So maybe this is a good time to talk about showcase you the different controls that we have. Let me go back to the sorry about that. If you come back to the documentation, and if you take a look at this section called as user interface and take a look at the components, these are the components that you get out of the box: button, label, text field, text view, search bar, switch, slider, progress, activity indicator, image, list view, HTML view, web view, tab view, segmented bar, date picker, time picker, list picker, dialog. These are all cross-platform controls for you. So when and also we have the layouts here. So let me talk about layouts. So we have this many layouts. Where are the layouts? There you go. So we have this many layouts: absolute layout, doc layout, grid layout, stack layout, wrap layout. Well, you use whatever you want. And then what you're seeing here is the how does the layout look like in the particular this one. Basically, it's layouting things, right? I usually use grid layout because I want the grid layout to fill the entire space that's available. So I use a grid layout. So let's see if the build has been done. So it's still building. So it's at 75% stage. So that's what it is. So you don't need to have an HTML or anything, and we are not creating HTML. Whatever you saw me putting on the page, that is page, node, stack layout, label, button, well, these are all NativeScript cross-platform controls. Okay. Is it possible to do bootstrap styling on XML? I'm not sure I understand what you mean by bootstrap styling. Why do you want to do a bootstrap styling? I mean, bootstrap is for the web. I'm talking about native UI. So if you don't style anything, we're gonna show whatever stock vanilla native UI it is. Like, you know, list button is a gray color button on Android, button is a blue color button on iOS. We're gonna show just as is if you don't style it. And there we go. So we have our application coming right on the emulator. And remember, we had three things: one label, one button, and another label. And remember, I set 10 as the number. That's what it is. So I'm going to click on tab. Notice what happened. I am actually on a virtual machine. This is a emulator running virtually on Windows 10 platform, but it was very fast. You know, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you know, although you are writing JavaScript, but the UI is a native UI. It is not a Cordova. It is not a phone gap. It is not a web, web coming up there. This is a pure Android native UI. And I do not have a Macintosh today with me. But if I had a Macintosh, I would have already shown you that, you know, the same code, I can actually go and then run it as a iOS app. And you're going to see that the button is not gray there. That's because in iOS, the buttons are usually blue color, right? So now let's do some interesting stuff. We are already at the 1 hour mark. So let me try to quickly do some coding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and then I will kind of take this guy on the top and then keep this guy on the bottom. I'm going to keep it here so that you know what is happening. And I'm going to go to my Visual Studio Code. I will resize this guy and then I will try to, no, I need this guy to be small. Okay, so why I'm doing this, you'll come to know in a moment. Why am I arranging things like this? So we, hang on. It's very difficult for me because, you know, my resolution is so low because of, you guys have to see everything. I had to go a pretty low resolution. Okay, so now in the bottom, what you're seeing is actually the command prompt, right? So I'm going to go and then do kill it. Now I'm going to use another command which is TNS live sync Android -- watch. So that means now he's going to start doing live syncing. Whatever changes I make, he's going to pick it up and then directly go and then sync it. So this is only a developmental thing. You know, this is not, you cannot use this on a production level application because you're developing and you want to see it for a production. You got to create the APK, put it onto the Play Store, and then somebody downloads the Play Store. Now notice what is happening. It's transferring the project files. It has applied the changes, and now he's going to say listening for changes. Right? So there you go. He says compilation complete, watching for file changes. Now see the magic now. I want to change the button's color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say background color is equal to, well, let's see what we do. What can you see it very, I'm going to do it as red maybe, yeah, let's go with red, and then I'm going to say color, which is the foreground, and I will say that is a white, right? So now I have not saved the file yet. Notice here this dot on app.css, that's because it is a it says the file is in change mode. I want you to observe closely on the command prompt, and I'm going to go and then save this file now. And notice what happened in the command prompt. It says executing something. So that's because it found that there is a change. And notice on the right hand side, the button got changed. The color of the button is changed. So this is what we allow you to do with Telerik NativeScript. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to kill this for a moment. And let's go ahead and then do some interesting stuff now. I will go to main, this one, and I'm going to remove this, and I will rows star, then I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go to view model, and then here I'm going to remove everything. We don't need this guy. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's say this is okay, let's come back to this one later. I'm going to go ahead and create a new file here. So we're going to go a little bit overboard today. I hope that is okay with everybody because, I think I had some problem in the starting. So, we are running a little late. So it will take me another 10 minutes or so to kind of showcase what I'm trying to do. So I hope everything it's okay with everybody. So I'm going to go and then add a new file here. And I'm going to call it bbc.service.ts. And what I need is, okay, let me make it full screen so that you guys can see this. So what I need here is, what I want to do is I want to go execute that API, right? So I will say include star as HTTP from, this is the NativeScript cross-platform HTTP module. And then I will say export class BBC service. This is why I like the TypeScript because I can do all these things. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say get news as my method, and what this will do is it will return me a promise, and that promise is going to be, let's say, a news item. And what is a news item? Well, let's go ahead and create that. I will say export news item, export class news item, and then here is what TypeScript allows you to do. I can create a constructor and then I can say public title, this is a string, and then I can say, let me not waste time, so I'm going to copy this and then come back here, and then I can say description, and I can say what I need pub date, and I need the right. So that's all I need for my thing. There you go. So that's my constructor. So that's like a model object. So consider this as my model object, right? And then here is my service class. Now what I can do is I can say this and return new promise, and then this will be, we will usually get resolve, reject. That's how the promises work. So you should learn all this stuff. If you're listening this for the first time, you should go and then check this out. So now here, what I need to do is I need to do http.getJSON. What is the URL, right? So we need the URL. So I'm going to say let news URL is equal to. Let me go back to my URL here. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it as is, and that's all. And I will say get JSON news URL, and then he's going to send me raw data, and I will say this is any. Now in the URL, in the data that comes back, notice here there's a query property, and then it contains results property, and then it contains items. So this is where all the data is residing. So what I can do is I can come in here and then say where where items is equal, or we'll say items is equal to raw. So this is the arrow function as we call it, like a lambda. That's raw data dot query dot results dot item. I think it's items. Yeah, item. So that is where everything is there. So I'm going to cast this to saying like, hey, this is actually an array of any. So this is how you say it in, okay, what is happening? Yeah, so I missed this one. So this is a way of saying like, hey, this whatever item is actually an array, and then don't worry what type is it like. So now what I can do is I can say items dot for each, and this is going to be item. And we need to create one, sorry, not where, it's going to be let. So I can say let news items is equal to a new array of news item. As I said, I come from C#, so this is all natural for me, but I'm writing JavaScript, by the way, right? This is not a any typed language, but this is actually JavaScript. So I can say this dot push new news item. And what do I need? I know that item contains title, then item dot description, then item dot pub date, then item dot thumbnail dot URL. So that's what I need. So that's it. So now we have prepared our item that needs to be sent, and the way we send this is we say resolve, and you are going to say news items. So that's it. And then if there were any problems, so I can say catch, and it's going to give me an error object. So I'm going to just send that error object. So now I just created my service layer. Now I need to use this service layer here. So in my view model, so what do I do? Well, simple, import statement. Import, what do we need to import? We'll let you know, but from where we have to import? Well, this is from bbc.service. It's like a module, right? And then I can say, hey, I need a news item, and then I need the BBC service, right? So now here, I think I made a mistake. So constructor, and I need to say super off, and then I can come back here and then create this private underscore service. This is actually BBC service, so I can keep it that. And then in the constructor, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say this dot underscore service is equal to new BBC service, so that I have my thing. So now what I need is I need a property here for keeping the items. So I'm going to say items, and I'll say hang on. Property, and then I'll say items, and then this is going to be news item array. There you go. So I just created a public getter and setter with a backing field called as items, right? So now what I can do is I can create a get news or load news as the function. So I can say load news. In this here what I can do is I can say this dot underscore service dot get this dot service dot get news, and then when it is done, I'm going to get items, which is actually news item array, and I want to use that, and then do what? I just have to do this dot items, the property, the public property, and then set it to that. So the moment I do that, what is happening? Oh, my mistake. So we should have said we are sending an array. So this is why TypeScript is so powerful. Just now what happened was I said this is actually returning an array, but the actual service, it never returned an array. It was returning a single item. So that's why TypeScript immediately said like, hey, are you sure? Because you cannot pass an array. I mean, you cannot expect an array here because it is sending me a single item. That's why I love TypeScript. It's pretty interesting. During compile time, you get to know all the problems. So now I'm done with this, and I'm done with this also. Now let's go back to this, and then we just need to create the list view here. So what do we need to do? In the items, I just have to say this is items, and not unloaded, not on this one. So we'll come back to that item tab. I don't think I'll have time for too many things, but yeah, I'll just do that. So here I can do a NS grid. Let's do 2 rows, or maybe what do we have? Description. We'll do a 2 rows for now, and I'm going to do this. And then what I want to do is I want to create image first. The source will be the property called as thumbnail, and stretch none, and then I have I'm going to do a NS label. So the text will be title, and then text wrap true. That's it. That's my simple template. We're going to see what happens with these guys. So let's go back to the main page.ts. There's only one thing left to do for us, and that is let me do this. I'll say let VM is equal to new hello world model, and I'm going to say the page.binding context is actually the view model, and then I'm going to go ahead and say view model dot load news. That's it. That's all I need to do. And we have bound the items property to the items here, and then each item will contain thumbnail. So how do I know that? Well, I've defined it here, right? So remember, title, description, pub date, thumbnail. That's what we have written here. So that's what it is going to give me there. So I've said thumbnail, title, and let me save this, and I'm crossing my fingers and then hoping that everything is working perfect. So I'm going to go to the command prompt here, and I'll say tns live sync Android, and let's put a watch. So I'm just crossing my fingers. I just wrote it, and then let's hope everything is fine. Let me take a look at the questions now. Does it support content negotiation? Yes, you can always pass a header. I did not pass a header because the moment I said get JSON, the NativeScript module is smart enough to say that, hey, by the way, accept is application/JSON. And we have, okay, so let's see if it is, I don't know what is happening. Looks like we have some error somewhere, so let's see. Let's try to debug. Or let me take a couple of questions now. I don't know what is happening in the code, so I'll come back to that. Does it support content negotiation? Yeah, now that's what I said. So you can get JSON, all it does is. Now I love NativeScript. Are there more sessions coming on NativeScript? I want my whole group to join your IndiaMentor session. Well, we can always do a couple of more deep dives. So as you can see here, I'm rushing. I'm doing a lot of things. But what I can do is I can come back and then do step by step. No PPT, nothing. We can do that. Can I create local data for native app? Well, absolutely. You can always, package a SQLite or something like that, and then you can always store data locally and then do whatever you want to do. How can I test this on my, fantastic, how can I test this on my Android phone? I don't get it from Google Play Store. I'm not sure what you mean by you don't get it from Google Play Store. I'm just doing development, so that's why I'm pushing it onto the, the emulator that I have. So, sorry, I don't understand the question. How can I debug the code? Perfect. So that is where I was coming to now. So what we have done is with Visual Studio Code, we have already gone ahead and then written a couple of debuggers for the Visual Studio. So now if I have to kind of go ahead and then debug it, there's an easier way to debug it. So what I can do is I can put a breakpoint in this guy, in this line, and then I can also put a breakpoint, let's say here and here. So you just have to go to Visual Studio Code, and then this is the debug window. And in the debug window, if you go ahead and then say, it says no configuration, so click on this arrow button here, and it will say, hey, what configuration do you need? Notice here we have NativeScript. So before you can do this, you will have to go to Visual Studio Code extensions gallery and then download NativeScript Visual Studio Code plugin or the extension. So the moment I do that, it goes ahead and then writes all the configuration that is required. And notice now what I get. I get launch on Android, attach on Android. So I'm going to say launch on Android, and what it's going to do now is it's actually building the code for me. As you can see in the debug console, it's open. I did not. I need to click on the arrow button. So yeah, now it's doing a build, and then I will be able to debug on that. So good question. So thanks for asking that. So it looks like I have covered all the questions that are there. So let's wait for the build to begin. And those of you who are looking for more sessions on NativeScript, well, there are a bunch of videos available on nativescript.org itself. Just go to resources section. And in my day job, I've done a lot of webinars also on NativeScript. In fact, we have one webinar coming up on October 5th. You just have to visit telerikhelper.net, and there is a webinar announcement. And October 5th webinar, I'm going to be doing NativeScript with our own, we have a commercial platform. We call it as Telerik mobile platform. So I'm going to be doing that there. So I'm going to do end-to-end application during that time. So as you can see here, what is happening is, since we said launch, of course, Visual Studio Code will go ahead and then call our build process, and it is doing the build again. And then once it has done the build, it's going to go and then deploy it to the application. And then I can, since I put a breakpoint, it will break on that breakpoint, and I can do all the debugging, whatever I need to do. So let me keep this guy here. Yeah, there is some issue that we'll figure out. Otherwise, I know it's already 14 minutes overboard. It was supposed to be a 1 hour webinar, but I'll try to see if this doesn't work, what is happening. I'll show you a pre-built application that I've already done, which is an interesting application that I'm developing. And you will understand, like, it's the same concept. Whatever I showed you till now is the concepts. So that is the most important aspect to understand, and then you can build up on that, whatever you want to build. But the concept of understanding what is happening where, how can I do things, all those stuff is important. So it's taking a couple of minutes more to build it. By that time, let me see if there are any more questions. I think I covered all the 5. Looks like I have covered all the questions, or is there any other questions? So what is happening is, looks like, okay, there we go. So now what is happening is, now the compilation is complete, and Visual Studio Code is now pushing the, the TNS, Telerik NativeScript is being pushed into the command line is taking the APK and then pushing it into the emulator, and Visual Studio will break now. If you see here, that's the breakpoint that you see in the background. I'm going to say go ahead because that's not the line that I need the breakpoint to be. There we go. Now I am inside my code now. And on the top you can see jump, get in, step over, step into, step out, all those stuff. So I'm going to do a step into. So now it is taking me directly into my BBC service, and I'm going to do a run so that we have to wait till here. So I'm going to do a run. And we have got the raw data. Oh, there we go. We got the data back. Results, item. There are 48 items. So I'm not sure what else is happening. The results, the item. So that's fine. And we have done that. So let's take a look at the news items. And there we go. We have prepared all the things. Description, pub date, thumbnail, title. Is this correct? Descent into hell. Okay, this is correct. So what happened? So let's go back to main view model. And then I'm going to keep a breakpoint here. And we got it. And oh, I know what happened. Okay. The thing is, remember I talked about notification. So this is an observable object. So now I modified the item, but I never notified somebody that, hey, this has been changed. So all I need to do is I need to say this dot notify property change items, and then the new value is this. So now let's stop this guy, and I'll just go back to. I hope you got the idea. How you can debug. I just wanted to prove a point there. So now I'm going to go ahead and then say live sync Android -- watch. I know it's getting late for most of you guys, but just bear with me. Is it possible to use certificate key while making a call to API as well? All those things are all possible. Depends on how your API is accepting the code. Oh, I never saved this file. Damn. Okay, so let me go ahead and then save it. Okay, that's fine. He's going to come back and then he's never going to see that there's a change. So I'm going to do a control yes now, and he detected a change now, and he's going to take that only changes that happened, and then he's going to load it onto the emulator now, and we should start seeing. Oh, there we go. So we got the data back, right? Fantastic. So let's go back to the main page.xml, and I think I know what the problem that I've done. I'm going to say the height. I'm going to set the height to probably, let's say 150, and then this is actually row is equal to 0, and this is actually row is equal to 1. And let's say we write a class here, and we will say news title, and we will go back to app.css. And I will say this is actually this, and then I will say font weight bold, and then font size let's say 20. You don't have to say px because we take device independent pixels, so you don't have to do that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just push this guy like this so that you see what is happening. Right now I'm going to go and then save it, and notice on the bottom it's gone ahead and then detected the change, and it's going to take the data and then push it, and there we go. We have fantastically looking. This is a native UI. There we go. By the way, I'm using my fingers to scroll through this, and then notice how what happened. That's a click event. Okay, hang on. Let me bring that back. I have not handled the click event, so what it did was it's looking for something. But you can get the point, right? Now you see here the photos are not looking correct. So what I can do is I can go back and then I can say that stretch is aspect fill, right? I can do that, and then now you will see photos coming up very clearly. But I hope you get the point with just JavaScript knowledge. And there we go. We got the right looking photos here. The complete photos are coming up now, and this is a native UI. Of course I am running out of time, but what I can do is I can click on a particular the item, and then I can go and then do whatever I have to do. Let me show you a ready-made built application that I'm working on as a pet project of mine. So this I call it as locals. Basically this is like find something in some place. So I want to find sushi in Bellevue. Bellevue is a place that I'm visiting next month. So I want to find sushi in Bellevue. And there we go. We have an activity indicator coming up. And what happened to my map? There we go. We have a Bing map coming up on the top. And this is the top 10 places where sushi is being served. I can click on a particular item, and then I can go into the details. I can click on call now, and then notice what is happening. I will get the call coming up. And not only that, I can click on this website, and a web page will be opened up now. Right? This is an app that I've written completely using NativeScript, and I had to know nothing but JavaScript, CSS, XML. That's why I like NativeScript a lot. It gives me, like, without knowing Android and without knowing iOS, I'm able to now program for Android and iOS. Well, that's with just 1 hour and 20 minutes. I try to give you a perspective of what is this NativeScript all about, and with just the JavaScript knowledge and CSS knowledge and XML knowledge, you can now become a native mobile application developer. I will share my, I gave you my coordinates. You can tweet to me. So this is my coordinate, about.me/KASHYAPA. That's my Twitter handle. If somebody is not able to look at my URL, so that's the URL, about.me/KASHYAPA. You can write to me, you can tweet to me. I will try to help you out in any way, whatever you want to do with NativeScript. If you need more information, just ping me back, and then I will be able to give you more information on NativeScript. So a couple of things to wrap up. NativeScript.org, this is the site that you need to bookmark, and there is a fantastic resources section available on NativeScript.org. If you go to this resources section, you get a lot of things, videos, ready-made built applications, everything is available here. So you can just take a look at that and then get going from there. With that, thank you very much for attending this webinar. I know this is a weekday, and then 8 to 9, maybe you were going back to your home. You're now listening from your home. I hope you have a great evening, and that's it. So I'm open for any questions that may be there.